Hey, what's up everyone? Scott Color here, coming to you from a slightly different location. I'm on a work trip right now and we're in these dorms, but then I saw this news from the Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope, how the combat system works, and I feel like I needed to make a video. So without further ado, let's get into it, because I think some really cool things were revealed, and we're going to get a bit more information of how the game will be played come October 20th. Alright, let's go. So the article starts off, the important stuff says, Sparks of Hope will let you delve into many worlds and environments with the freedom to explore as you wish. Now, freedom to explore as you wish, is this going to be, like a very open world concept, like Breath of the Wild, or is this going to be, how open is this world is my question, because from what we've seen, it's similar to the previous game. There's definitely a designated path you're supposed to be on, with a few side roads that you can, potentially do a quest here, a puzzle there. So I'm a little skeptical on this one, but if this is what they're saying, I hope it's a bit more open. You'll meet a cast of unforgettable characters. Some of them will give you missions to complete. Others may present you with challenges or mysteries to uncover. Now, if you saw my previous video, I'm very excited about the cast of characters. It looks like they put a lot of time and attention into these side characters, to the NPCs, which I absolutely love. It reminds me of the old Paper Mario Thousand Year Door days when the side characters just had some personality, and I'm sure there's plenty of other examples of different NPCs out there. What's interesting as well here is that they say they can present you with challenges or mysteries to uncover. So some will have challenges. We've seen that in the last video, as we saw there's like a timer on the screen. But there's also going to be some mysteries to uncover. So I wonder if that's more of the main line that we progress through is those mysteries of like how Cursa got to be and how we figured to defeat her. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Carefully handcrafted challenges on themed maps, which also relates to the last game. I thought their themes were pretty consistent throughout with their worlds, even though World 2 had like a half sand, half frozen desert, and it was ice, but it was still consistent. I thought, deserts can be, hot or cold, so it does make sense, actually. Never before seen tactical combat to truly test your skills. We'll see about that. We've seen a lot from the first game, so I wonder how much will be different in this new game. It does say we can scout the battleground in advance, so I think it's going to have a very similar feel, honestly, to the previous game. I know they talk a lot about getting rid of the grid. They mentioned it several times in their showcase video, and again, as you heard me say, I wasn't a huge hater of the grid. I thought the grid was fine. It allowed you to play within your set moves, but I'm sure this will feel very nice and very fluid as we fight our opponents. Now, next up is very interesting because it says you will normally select a team of 3 heroes for each battle. So that sentence alone makes me think, is there some abnormal cases where it's 2, 4, 5? Is the whole cast at 9? I don't know. I very much doubt it. That'd be a fun little side challenge or side game. But that level would just take forever. If 3 people takes forever, I can't imagine how many minutes and hours a 9 hero battle would take. Real-time gridless combat, this is what they say about the gridless, allows you to find the optimal positions while you explore all the movement options available to you. Dashing, jumping, hiding, throwing, and vaulting over minor obstacles. We saw the vaulting over minor obstacles. Mario does it in the trailer a couple times. It says the heroes all have different weapons and techniques to use. From Mario's handy double shot, so he has a double shot, similar to how he had 2 shots on his hero shot, but it was a single target attack, to Bowser's flashy explosive projectiles, or Rabbid Mario's dazzling melee attacks. Now, Rabbid Mario last game, he wasn't melee because he still had that cone shooting gun, but he definitely was a up-close fighter. His gun did more damage the closer you were. His dashes did explosive damage. He had a lot of, so he was kind of and he had a hammer as well for his second ability. So he was very melee, but now they're really forcing you can't do any ranged or very limited ranged with him. So that's kind of nice. I like how they kind of placed him in that box in a sense, because with 9 characters, you kind of have to, so that you could put different boxes together and get a whole different team. In addition to the weapons, all heroes have individual techniques. You can shield your allies, prepare devastating counterattacks, or put enemies to sleep. Now, if you're familiar with the first game, you know that the first and the third thing that I just said there were from the previous game, putting enemies to sleep and shielding your allies. Now, the devastating counterattacks really intrigues me because I wonder how the computers are going to play into this. If I walk up to them and I set up this counterattack, are they going to attack me, or will they be able to see that and not attack me, thus becoming kind of useless? I'm very intrigued to see. Maybe it's like a taunt as well. That would be really cool, I think, but maybe that's a little too strong. We'll have to see how that counterattack really works. Another thing to note as well, it was said in the video, and it says they have many techniques, but we've only seen one. Like, for instance, we know that Rabbid Peach can heal, but we didn't see her shield ability. Mind you, I feel like the shield from her and Rabbid Luigi were both kind of not utilized a ton, I find, and maybe just kind of slotted in there. So maybe they're being a bit more purposeful with their second abilities and maybe moving them to the sparks. Now it's time for the complete hero lineup. Now this is interesting because we've seen sparks in the video that aren't mentioned here. So obviously I wonder how many sparks are missing from the actual game. Is there going to be 50? Is there going to be 20? Is there going to be 100? Who knows? So first off, let's talk about Mario. Now Mario can attack 2 enemies at the same time, as we heard earlier, thanks to his dual slinger is what it's called. And he does keep his hero sight ability. So if someone moves in his range, bop, 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 he shoots him. Now, it also reveals that there's going to be some skill trees which allow him to unlock a stomp jump, which he was very good at in the previous game. But this also goes to show, because we haven't seen it yet, to my knowledge, but there are skill trees, and we know that people level up, but now we can see that they get some points for those levels up, some attributes that they get to put in to their character, which is cool, because I think a lot of people like that, and they didn't just like a basic level up system where everyone goes at the same rate. Now, we also get introduced to our first Sparks name. Their name is Starburst. They boost damage done by the heroes in its range, very similar to Mario's power-up, his second ability from the last game. And so this made me wonder, is the Sparks ability essentially going to be the secondary ability of the heroes from the last game? Kind of feels like a bit of a cop-out to me, but honestly, I kind of like it. I wish they would have started with that. Kind of gives a bit more purpose when it's the Spark that gives the ability rather than Mario just having 2. I think it's a cool, like, have a companion. Next up, we go on to Rabbid Peach. I don't know if they have a spelling error in this, and I double checked, but it says clean up the dark mess to improve the view a little bit. So I don't know if that improves everyone's range or field of view. And then they also tag her Instagram to go follow, which I guess go ahead. Her weapon is called the Triple Troll, and it shoots 3 rockets at the same time, regardless if they're behind cover or not, or it blows it up. So we know that she's going to be a bit more. She wasn't really a rocket launcher in the previous game, so this is going to be interesting to see where she fits into what kind of comps. But being a kind of shifting her play style. Before she was kind of just like mid-range healer, shielder. And that's it. Now it seems like she has some rockets to break some stuff, but she also heals, so it's very interesting. And the next spark we're introduced to is Pyrogeddon, and they're on fire. Enemies in range are targeted by flaming meteors. If you remember the last game, there were some levels that had flaming meteors come down from the sky. I can only assume it's going to be very similar to that. Maybe they get burned and have to run around. Next up, we've got one of the most exciting characters that I'm looking forward to is Bowser's in the game now. He's got the Bowzooka, which does splash damage, as we kind of saw the big explosion. And also has range-seeking Mecha Koopas, it mentions. Range-seeking Mecha Koopas that he can control. So I'm very excited to see what the hell that looks like. I think this is going to be absolutely wild. And he also does splash damage on his jump, similar to Yoshi from the last game. So he jumps in. When he lands on the ground, people around him take a lot of splash damage. His spark, or the spark that's mentioned with him, is Exosphere, which makes heroes more resistant to physical damage and super effects. So this is someone you probably want to put on like one of your tanks, or someone who's up close. So maybe it's like Mario Rabbid, who does some melee attacks. I guess we'll have to see how much resistances this actually gives our heroes. Next up, the new Rabbid is Edge. She excels at damaging multiple enemies. So if you have a game where there's multiple enemies, maybe lower health enemies, this is going to be your go-to gal. It says in her description, the impressive Stormblade technique surprises enemies that try to approach. Now, I'm not exactly sure what that means. I don't know if that's a hero sight. I'm not sure if that's if someone gets within range, they get blown away. Very interested to see how this works and how she fits into different comps. She can dash multiple enemies in one turn, so that makes me think she does want to be a bit more up close and personal. I mean, we see her boomerang, it kind of goes in a straight line, comes back, or maybe it can go curved. Not exactly sure. She's paired with currently VampDash. The name VampDash. They had some Starburst, Pyrogeddon, and VampDash. What do you think VampDash does? Well, as it says, damage dealt into healing for your hero. So it is the vampiric dash. I'll be honest, I think they got a little lazy on the naming of this one here. Next up, one of my favorite and most used characters from the previous game is Luigi. And it says in here that he is the highest single target damage of all our extravagant heroes from a distance. So this is fantastic. Again, kind of putting him in one of those boxes of you really want to keep him far away. You really want to do a lot of damage. He also does have the double jump plus extra mobility, which is fantastic. And similar to Mario, he has the hero sight or Steely Stare, which is called, which is fantastic. So he's going to be played very similar, I think, to the previous game which is good because I really liked him having him in my team. Next up, we have Aquanox. We saw this in the video. Attacks turn to water and make those who encroach bounce away. So again, it's going to be an interesting thing that, do you set this as a trap and do the computers see it? And then do they still fall for the trap? You know, sometimes with computers, if you set like a trap and then they purposely won't move, or they'll absolutely do everything to not go towards it, making it impossible to ever use, which I don't think will be the case because we steely stare and hero sight all the time, but heroes still move within our vision. But it does worry me potentially that some of these traps have some obvious counterplay and how smart the computers will be, if that makes sense. Next, we got Rabbid Rosalina. Her item is called the Kaboomer. Makes enemies fall asleep, so similar to Rabbid Mario's second ability from last game, and can dash individuals into stasis, so puts them to sleep, freezes them, paralyzes them. I'm not sure exactly, but they can't move after she dashes them. Apparently, we don't have too much on her besides that. We've seen quite a bit of video. Now, next up, we have the Ether Ring, which already I think is a better name for a spark than VampDash. The Ether Ring makes your moves become unseen by enemies. Now, instantly, I'm thinking of, if an opponent hero sights, this will allow us to move undetected. So I think this has actually a lot of counterplay abilities to some enemy traps that they may set up. Moving on ahead, now we have Peach. Her weapon is the Boombrella. It fires at enemies in a cone similar to the last game. We know she's probably going to be a bit better closer up. She also has that team barrier exactly like last game as well. So being up close while also protecting allies who might get attacked in the back is probably Peach's go-to style. And the one paired with Peach here is the Reflector, and this makes attacks that are aimed at our hero directed back at the opponent. So it's a nice reflective shield. Reflector makes sense. Back at the opponent. I'm wondering if it's going to be 1-to-1 damage or if it's going to be reduced damage, because that could be wicked if they have a guy who's powering up and you just drop this reflector in front of them and then they hit themselves for full damage. I'd love to see that. Next up, one of the cuter Rabbids I'd say in the collection is Rabbid Luigi. He targets opponents behind cover with his bouncing Disruptor. As we've seen a few videos of him, he can also weaken, similar to before. So his technique is that he weakens. Now, I don't know, I didn't use his weaken too much. I think it actually had a decent purpose, but he has that weaken ability just like the last game. And as we've seen from his both showcases now, or the first trailer and this new showcase, that he can hit multiple enemies with his boomerang or his Disruptor. So he'll also be good to take out multiple enemies, even if they are spread out a bit. Next up, we have ToxiQuake, which I think sounds pretty cool compared to some of these other sparks. And he has Shockwave Ooze that deals damage to nearby enemies and poisons surviving ones over several turns. So this is a dot, pretty much, a damage over time ability, it appears to be. So this is new to the game. I don't think we had a mechanic like this at all in the previous one. So it'll be nice that you can slowly whittle away at someone. Maybe it reduces some of the resistances as well. I'm not sure. Just thinking out loud here for some cool mechanics that can be added to the poisoning. Going on to our second last hero, we have Rabbid Mario. He, as we've talked about earlier, he's got gauntlets, which are called the Dukes, and they can damage enemies behind cover with the shockwave. So if you remember him from last game, he was up in your face. His dashes did splash damage. He had a hammer and he shot in a cone. So he really wanted to be up in the grill of the opponents, if you will. Now these gauntlets will probably force him to do that, but that's okay because we wanted him really in that position anyway. So I'm excited to play him kind of similarly, but see what these new gauntlets can maybe enhance or bring to the table that's different. And lastly, the last spark that we're introduced to is Glitter, which enemies get pulled in like a disco ball, similar to Rabbid Mario's song that he did before, his beckon call, if you will, to bring everyone in. So pairing Rabbid Mario or Mario Rabbid, Rabbid Mario, Mario Rabbid, whatever, with Glitter, you'll essentially have the same character as an original one. So I don't know if that's good, I don't know if that's bad. I mean, I played probably the most Rabbid Mario out of anyone. All my heroes, he was probably in my lineup consistently just because he did so much AoE, so much damage. It was fun to just have him run in there, Suicide Squad, maybe Peach barriers him a bit so he takes a bit less damage, and it was a good time. So that's it from this showcase that we just saw that was posted by Ubisoft. It gives us a bit more insight into how combat's going to work, what the sparks do, because we didn't really get a detailed explanation, and even this explanation is only 50%. So I'm really excited to jump into the game and really excited to push these heroes to the limit. One thing I will say, and I kind of mentioned it earlier, I really want these heroes to be different enough from each other so there's not a clear meta. I want every different match a different set of 3 heroes to be the most optimal to beat that match. You know, if we have an opponent who has a ton of health, and we can use that ToxiQuake where we poison, we weaken him down slowly because we can't kill him quick enough for whatever reason. Or maybe we need to use a lot of heals or shields, or maybe we just need to get up in there, my favorite style, and just start punching, just start fighting as much damage as possible, and we don't worry about our own health. So anyways, I'm going to be streaming this game on a schedule once it comes out, October 20th. Please follow my Twitch. It's going to be in the description, twitch.tv/ScottCollar. I'm also on Instagram and Twitter, while I pretty much only talk about this game. So if you're interested in this game, please follow along for the journey, and we'll learn together and we'll make mistakes together, but most importantly, we'll take down Cursa together. Thanks for watching.